economics and agriculture is one that is challenging, and recently it's become even more difficult for United States farmers, specifically Washington farmers, to get back on the board.
In January of 2018, the Trump administration imposed a safeguard tariff on all U.S. solar panels and washing machines from 30 to 50% because the United States International Trade Commission saw that those industries were being harmed by imports. In October of 2017, both the solar panel and washing machine industries filed separate requests to further investigate under Section 201 of the Trade Act of 1974. This was the first move of the tariff game.
After imposing tariffs on solar panels and washing machines, the administration went on to impose tariffs investigating whether or not the steel and aluminum imports set the United States national security under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. After releasing those results, Trump announced a tariff on 25% of steel and 10% of aluminum on all trading partners.
Steel and aluminum account for 34% of affected products by tariffs, with the rest and majority being food and agricultural products. About 2/3 of all agricultural products get shipped to other nations, including China, Mexico, Canada, Brazil, South Korea, Argentina, and the European Union, with their biggest buyers being China, Canada, and Mexico. The Trump administration Tariff Act on Agriculture went into account in September of 2018.
United States agriculture is dependent on exports for its capacity. Sales abroad account for 20% of U.S. farm income, supporting more than 1 million American careers, according to the United States Department of Agriculture. Locally, the state of Washington could be the hardest, affecting an estimated $6.2 billion worth of exports and impacting 945,700 jobs.
So is American agriculture just a pawn for the U.S. improving their foreign markets?
Or are we the players benefiting from these tariffs, supporting our most valuable piece of agriculture?
We are definitely the players that are winning from Trump's Tariff Act. My name is Hannah Brand, and I am the head of the Farm Service Agency. I represent the United States Department of Agriculture, and I am for Trump's tariffs. Even though these tariffs do have a short-term effect on our economy, I believe that the long-term effect of these tariffs will help to benefit the economy for future generations of farmers and ranchers to come.
Future farmers should not be our only concern right now, considering we have thousands of farmers being hurt by these tariffs every day. My name is Malia Candidate, and I am an American Farm Bureau Federation representative. American farmers, ranchers, and agricultural businesses may suffer from the loss of just about $20 billion in egg products that will be sent to China. Currently, China has a list of 106 imports from the United States that will be subject to a 25% tariff on many important agricultural products, including soybeans, sorghum, cotton, corn, wheat, beef, and other products. We do not need to rely on these tariffs when we could be spending time negotiating instead of fighting back.
Farmers may be affected by these tariffs, but the main goal of them is to end the tariff game in free trade, which will better our future economy. My name is Jacob Oliver. I'm a rancher and a member of the National Cattlemen's Association. Even though ranchers like myself are being affected by these tariffs from China's tax on beef, many know that the U.S. can successfully retaliate against foreign markets. There is a strategic plan that is behind these tariffs, and President Trump believes that the U.S. can make its allies lower their prices accordingly.
The way I see it is by imposing these tariffs, we are obstructing citizens' access to goods and services, as well as slowing down the U.S. economy. The government is actually making its citizens poorer by enacting these tariffs. I am Austin Wheeler, and I am a professor of economics. While there is a strategic plan behind these tariffs, the current administration seems to believe that by threatening China, the country won't strike back. However, there is great threat that China will strike back and further retaliate from American companies.
Even though there's a risk of countries striking back against the U.S., protectionism in trade for farmers is not necessary. Protectionism is a type of policy that limits unfair trade negotiations between countries. It still exists because of this trade policies and subsidies. A subsidy is a sum of money granted by the government to help farmers to pay for commodities. Farmers and ranchers alike should be allowed to compete competitively without so many unfair trade restrictions.
Exactly. Farmers and agricultural firms rely heavily on exports to sustain prices and revenues. Currently, trade in agriculture has exploded. According to the USDA, annual farm exports have risen between the years 1998 to 2014. from approximately $52 billion to $150 billion, while imports have declined from $37 billion to just $2 billion. Imports are important because they give consumers improved access to food, assure food safety, and lower costs.
We are facing even more product losses because of these tariffs. Currently in Washington, Mexico has imposed a 20% tariff on all Apple products. This is so important because according to the Washington Apple Commission, Washington is one of the top producers of apple producers in the United States. Washington farmers are hoping that some sort of resolution or some sort of negotiation will allow a resolution to the apple crisis.
These tariffs are not only affecting the apple industries, they're also affecting the soybeans of the Puget Sound. China has significantly cut down on purchases of U.S. soybeans. Shipments of soybeans from the northwestern coast of Washington have decreased statistically by 91% since these tariffs have passed. Soybeans are actually the second most financially important crop in the U.S., according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture National Agricultural Statistics Service. Hurting one of our most important and profitable crops is just a blunder of a move.
This trade war is not a blunder of a move. The U.S. is currently involved in a multilateral trade system called the World Trade Organization. This organization has helped produce gains for many agriculturists like myself. These gains have come about through basic trade liberalization, which is removal or reduction over trade barriers. The U.S. has also initiated over 29 different disputes by the World Trade Organization. This helps to promote agriculture and free trade.
Promoting free trade in agriculture is exactly what we need to be doing, and that is why these tariffs are so important. They are working towards a long-term goal of free trade in the U.S. Even though these tariffs are currently working towards a long-term goal, they seem to be undermining in more ways than one. Another way that tariffs are undermining is through tariff rate quotas, which are paid by U.S. consumers like you and me in the form of higher prices on American agricultural products. U.S. cheese is actually one of the products with the highest tariff rate quota in place. This quota limits inflation prices and reduces markets.
That is exactly why these tariffs are wrong. Since these tariffs went into effect on the dairy industry in July of last year, markets have had a significant drop in sales to Mexico and to China. China and Mexico have stopped purchasing our products, and because of this, it has resulted in a 33% decrease in dairy products bought from the U.S.
Yes, but even though there has been a drop of products going to Mexico, there's been a 33% of increase of other products going to other countries, such as more products are going to Southeast Asia. The cheese exports that were lost going to Mexico have been replaced by dry, non-fat milk supplements going to Mexico.
You guys seem to have forgot that these exports being affected by milk are just one of the many products that are being taxed, harming United States farmers and ranchers. These trade barriers have taken a toll on farmers and agricultural firms because they rely heavily on export markets to sustain prices and revenues. By doing this, our government puts restrictions on the promotion of free trade. Free trade has allowed the growth of the United States agricultural exports.
Although there are many products being taxed, like almost always, you seem to have forgotten one key fact, that most farmers are actually supportive of these tariffs because they see the long-term benefit of free trade. Lance Miller, a wheat farmer from Colfax, Washington, even stated, quote, "To be honest, I don't think everything Trump has done is working, but I do think something will come to a head sooner or later," end of quote. Lance is just one of the many few examples of farmers that are being affected by these tariffs every day. Although Lance is being affected, he holds back from blaming the current administration because he is thankful for anything being done to try to help his family farm. Farmers are really trying to become the main competitor in the field of agriculture, and our competitors need to become the pawns.
I can see your guys' point of view, but looking at this situation from an economical standpoint, free trade agreements typically do more harm than good. Many developing countries rely on producing primary products in which they have a comparative advantage. A comparative advantage is the ability of a country, in this case, to carry out a particular economic activity efficiently. Relying solely on agricultural products has sometimes led to trouble in our economy due to unregulated or unexpected rises and falls in prices due to weather and crop loss. Also, growth demands can increase short term, whereas this is a long-term goal that we need to reach.
That is very true. The short-term effects of these tariffs can be devastating, like Austin was saying. American workers are being affected by these tariffs, such as toy makers, business owners, grocers, and big industries. While it is important to focus on agriculture, we should also be looking at the other Americans being affected by these tariffs.
I agree. The negotiation is important between foreign industries, but focusing on our own markets is even more important because these markets are being affected right now today. American families and consumers are being forced to pay much higher prices than they would if we just resulted in free trade.
Having no trade restrictions could honestly help farmers and consumers alike. A recent study conducted by the Congressional Budget Office that researched 5 different academic studies said that they all agreed there are major benefits through full liberalization. Liberalization is just another way to say free trade, which is the removal or reduction of trade obstacles, such as duties and surcharges, and non-trade obstacles, such as licensing rules, quotas, and other requirements.
Free trade can be very beneficial to the agriculture sector, like the supporters of these tariffs are saying. Yet there seems to be no way we can win this game. Now let's take a look at the final result of our proponents.
U.S. consumers and farmers alike will benefit from free trade because it will result in a stronger economy in the United States.
Ranchers, like myself, know that the U.S. can't successfully retaliate against foreign markets, and gaining free trade would help to do so.
Checkmate.
Now let's see what the final pieces are on the opponent's side of the board.
We do not need to rely on these tariffs when we can negotiate a better deal and to resolve these tariffs and put together a new plan.
Product losses are making American citizens poor economically, and they are causing more harm than good to our country. Checkmate.
So are we the pawns losing from this tariff game?
Or are we the players winning from these tariffs? Thank you. Are there any questions?